Are you tired of cords being strung all over the place when you're polishing your car? Well, I definitely am. I've always been hesitant in purchasing a cordless polisher based on what I've seen online, because when I've looked for an honest and thorough review, I just couldn't find any. Most are sponsored by the manufacturer in a, quote, face-off, so of course that polisher wins. I went out and purchased all of these.
Sweet.
On my own, and we're going to not only test everything for the usual charge time, run time, vibration, power, and balance, but we're going to put these in the hands of 6 professional detailers with a wide range of experience. None of us have any experience with these cordless polishers prior to now. I've had a polisher in my hand since 1997, so that's 24 years. My wife since 2014, that's 7 years, and the 4 others you'll meet later in this video. We have a combined 75 years of experience, so I feel like this is a fair comparison. We have all operated corded, rotary, orbital, and forced rotation polishers in a professional environment, so I feel it's safe to say that we have a good understanding of them. The only cordless polisher that we have experience with is the Rupes Hybrid Nano, which is a small 1 and 2 inch polisher that will not be tested here, as it is really in a different category. So with that all out of the way, grab a chair, as this is going to be kind of a lengthy video, so let's get to it. In alphabetical order, this is the Atom Swirl Killer 15mm, made in China. Cost me $287.98 for the tool, charger, 2 batteries. Top trigger, 3 speeds, has a brushed motor, 5-inch standard backing plate. The exhaust vents are on the bottom and on the side, and it's very similar to another one in this test called the Hardin, and you can see the comparison pictures. Had trouble finding where it's made because it doesn't say anywhere on the packaging. A quick search on Alibaba, AliExpress, you can find them for about $75. Very, very similar, same frame. Not sure if it's the same exact motor, but they are easily available. The DeWalt XR DCM848P2, $449, 3-year warranty, made in China. Has a bottom trigger, 15 speed plus a variable trigger, so lots of control. 2,000 to 5,500 RPM, has a brushless motor, a 5-inch backing pad, and it is a proprietary backing plate. If memory serves me correctly, I believe it's a Stanley Black & Decker backing plate. The orbit size is not stated, 6 pounds, 13.1 ounces, or 3,093 grams, and it has a 100 watt-hour or 5 amp-hour battery pack. Replacement battery packs are $149.99. The vents are up on the head and they aim forward, up and away. And coming from Germany is the Flex XFE 15150. MSRP is $569.99, 3-year warranty. As I said, made in Germany. The batteries are made in China, along with the charger. Bottom trigger, 6 speeds, variable trigger, 4,600 to 7,500 RPM, brushless motor, 5-inch proprietary backing plate, 15mm orbit, 6 pounds, 4.9 ounces, 2859 grams, has an 18 volt, 5 amp hour, 90 watt hour battery. Replacement batteries are $129.99. You can see it's very unique on the back. It blows the exhaust vent from those holes in the middle outward, but not onto the pad. It dissipates through the pad. It's really unique. It has a filter for the air intake, and there's the exhaust. And the Glossit Ion 15, it is $349.99, 1-year warranty, made in China. Top mounted non-variable trigger, 2 speeds, high and low, 2200, 4400. It has a brushed motor, 5-inch pad, 125mm. It uses an M8 Rupes style backing plate. Orbit size is 15mm. It's 5 pounds, 7.7 ounces, or 2486 grams. 20 volt, 4 amp hour, 80 watt hour. Replacement batteries are $49.99. You see the intake is down by the battery. The exhaust is up by the front, and it does use the SPTA and Makita batteries as well. They're all interchangeable. Next up is the Hardin 4800 DC, made in China, $209.98, 30-day warranty. Has a top trigger, 3 speeds, 1400 to 2100 RPM, and a brushed motor. So it's the same frame and everything as the Atoms, but it's obvious that it's a different motor and a different orbit. It uses the same battery. All the other dimensions are the same. 6-inch pad, 150 millimeter, uses a standard 5/16 24 backing plate, so any standard sanding pad would work. 5 pounds, 10.6 ounces, very similar to the Atoms. 18 volt, 4 amp hour, 72 watt hour, and a replacement battery is $54.48. So if you decide to buy the Atoms and you can't get a replacement battery, the replacement batteries here will work just fine for that polisher. You can see the exhaust vents are right underneath and the intake at the bottom down by the battery. Cobalt 124B, this is the only tool that's only available as a bare tool. I couldn't buy a kit, so I had to buy a charger and battery separately. So the cost is $258 for that. 5-year warranty, made in China. Bottom trigger has 5 speeds and it is a variable trigger. 2300 to 3800 RPM, a brushless motor with a 6-inch 150 millimeter pad, 5/16 24 standard backing plate thread. Has an 8 millimeter orbit, 5 pounds 9.3 ounces, or 2532 grams. It is the highest voltage in the test, 24 volts, 4 amp hours, which is 96 watt hours. Replacement battery is $59.98. You can see the intake at the bottom with a filter removable screen. And the exhaust, I'm not a huge fan of. It's behind the backing plate and it's completely exposed to all the dust, everything else right there that's going to be flying around. And not only that, but it blows it at the pad, at the backing plate. So it's going to heat up the backing plate, which is going to heat up the pad. May not be good for long-term polishing. We'll find out. Next up is the Makita XOPO2T. $589.99 is the most expensive tool in this test. 3-year warranty, made in USA, bottom trigger. It has 2 ranges of 5 speeds plus a variable trigger, 0 to 6800 RPM, brushless motor, comes with a 5 and a 6-inch backing pad, uses an M8 bolt, and the orbit size is shown as 7/32, which is 5.5 millimeters. This also runs in forced rotation, however, we're not going to use that for this test. It is cool that all you have to do is turn a knob and it goes from random orbit to forced rotation. It is the heaviest tool in this test, 7 pounds, 6.1 ounces, or 3347 grams, 18 volts, 5 amp hours, and 90 watt hours. Replacement battery is $149.99. The exhaust vents are on top and it blows up and away from your work, which is great. Now we have the POPOMAN. That stands for Power Man, Possible Man. MSRP for 2 batteries, tool, and a charger, $171.96. It is the cheapest in the test. 2-year warranty, made in China. Has a bottom trigger, non-variable trigger with 6 speeds, 1500 to 5500 RPM, brushless motor, 6-inch pad, 150 millimeters with a standard 5/16 24 backing plate. The orbit size is not stated, but it appears to be 15 millimeters. It is the lightest in the test with the battery, 5 pounds, 8.6 ounces, and that's 2510 grams. 20 volts, 4 amp hours, 80 watt hours, and a replacement battery is only $35.99. Cheapest all around. Let's see how it holds up. The Ryobi and the Cobalt, the tool by themselves is lighter, but with the battery it's not. So you can see standard 6-inch sanding pad. It says patent pending on the counterweight. Intake is on the bottom by the battery, and the exhaust is underneath and in the middle of the tool. Exhaust is underneath and on the sides, I'm sorry. Next up is the Ryobi PBF 100KN. $348.99 for the tool, charger, and 2 batteries. The kit only comes with 1 battery. 3-year warranty, made in China. Has a top trigger, non-variable, 6-speed, 3000 to 7500 RPM, brushed motor. 5-inch pad, 125 millimeters, and it uses a standard 5/16 24 backing plate. Orbit size is not stated, but it appears to be somewhere in the 12 to 15 millimeter area. 5 pounds, 9 ounces, 2524 grams, second lightest in the test. 18 volt, 4 amp hour, 72 watt hours. Replacement batteries are $99 a piece. And you can see from underneath it has quite a heavy counterweight on it. And the intake and exhaust. The exhaust is right up around the head, shoots to the side. Intake is right at the middle of the tool. And next up we have the ShineMate EB51 5-inch 15mm 6-month warranty. Cost me $394.47 with the US to Canada exchange rate. Has a really cool dual charger, but it only charges one at a time, doesn't charge them both. Made in China, bottom trigger, 6-speed progressive trigger, 2,000 to 5,000 RPM, brushless motor, 5-inch pad, M8 bolt thread, 15mm orbit. 5 pounds, 15.1 ounces, or 2696 grams, 18 volt, 5 amp hour, 90 watt hour. Replacement battery cost $78.88. The intake is on the just above the battery. It has screens on it, removable, replaceable, cleanable. And the exhaust is on the back side of the backing plate and also the bottom of the body. The backing plate has holes in it, I'm assuming to help with further ventilation. However, the real intention should be to help cool the pad, but you'll find that it's going to most likely heat up the pad. Next up is the SPTA 20 volt 15mm, and there's the model number, I'm not going to say it. It is $189.99 for the tool, charger, and 2 batteries. 1-year warranty, made in China. Bottom trigger, non-variable 3-speed trigger. 1500 to 5500 RPM, brushless motor, 5-inch and 6-inch backing pads. It has an M8 bolt. Orbit size is 15mm, 5 pounds, 5.9 ounces, or 2434 grams. You find that a lot of these with the battery are right around 2,500 grams, 2.5 kilograms. 21 volt, 4.0 amp hour, 84 watt hours. The replacement battery is $39.99, but in a pinch you can also run Makita batteries on here, as I'll show you right here. So you'll find the Makita battery will work, but the SPT battery won't work on the Makita. I am pretty impressed with the amount of stuff that comes with this kit for $189.99. 2 batteries, a case, 2 backing plates, compounds, polishes, different pads, a mitt, I mean just all kinds of stuff. One design flaw, it doesn't want to stand up. All these other ones will, this one won't. And if you were to set it on the back, you see it's tilted so far forward, but if you set it on the back, it doesn't sit there very easily. It wants to roll over if you were to bump it. Overall, I think it's a pretty nice package for what you get for the money paid. We'll reserve judgment until we get it and test it and see how it's going to behave. It does use a Rupes style backing plate, so you can buy a Rupes backing plate to fit this if you so choose. The intake's on the bottom, down by the battery. The exhaust, it looks like there's more intakes on the body. The exhaust is underneath the backing plate. You can see the holes right there by those screws, and it pushes the air through the backing plate, through those holes, and it will actually heat the pad up, which you don't want. This can also be found on Alibaba, AliExpress, anywhere between $100 and $230. So if you wanted to wait, maybe you can save a few bucks, but it is available on Amazon. The average price for the tools in this test, $347.21, with the Flex and the Makita being significantly higher, and the POPOMAN being the cheapest, along with SPTA and Hardin. Middle of the pack goes to Ryobi, Glossit, and ShineMate, $350 to $390. And as far as the weight goes, if you look at the blue line there, that's the total tool and battery weight. Again, the DeWalt, Flex, and Makita are the heaviest in this test. The lightest goes to SPTA, Glossit, and POPOMAN. The Glossit has a heavier tool but a lighter battery. You can see that by the green line, and then the red is the battery weight, which they're all fairly light, but you can see the overall average for the polishers with the battery, they're right around 2,500 grams. Now we're going to get into charge times. Next up is the Atom Swirl Killer. Advertised charge up in no time, actually took almost 3 hours, 170 minutes. That's not no time. So for the DeWalt, it's advertised as 90 minutes or an hour and a half charge time. This ended up taking 83 minutes from completely flat, or 1.38 hours in order to charge up. So it actually beat the advertised time. So the Flex is advertised as a 50-minute charge time, 45-minute runtime. The actual time to charge this was 49 minutes, so it beat it by a minute. So I would call that as advertised. The Glossit has an advertised 60-minute or so charge time, and it ended up taking nearly 3 hours, 2.93 hours, 176 minutes. Battery was from completely flat. It did take a while. Hardin advertises 120-minute charge time, and it took 169 minutes or 2.8, almost 3 hours to charge. Definitely does not meet the expectations for charge time. The Cobalt fell far short of its advertised 60-minute charge time. It took 170 minutes or 2.83 hours, nearly 3 hours to charge this battery. Makita says 45 minutes to charge. This took 53 minutes or 0.88 hours, nearly an hour. Pretty close to advertised. Not exactly right on, but you know, it'll pass compared to what some of these others are doing. The POPOMAN does not state a claimed charge time. However, it took 142 minutes or nearly 2.5 hours in order to charge up. So something to keep in mind, if this battery doesn't last very long, it's going to take a long time to charge. Like the Cobalt, the Ryobi falls quite short of its advertised time versus what it actually took. Advertised 60 minutes, and it took 121 minutes or just over 2 hours in order to fully charge. Coming in fairly close is the ShineMate EB351 5-inch and the 3-inch. Advertised 60 minutes, actual time 71 minutes, so just over an hour. It only charges one battery at a time too. I did notice that, even though it has a dual charger. The SPTA does not advertise the charge time, and there's probably a good reason for it. It took 183 minutes or just over 3 hours to charge. That is the longest in the test. So you can see that the Hardin, Adams, Cobalt, Glossit, and SPTA all took at or over 3 hours to charge, whereas the Flex, Makita, ShineMate, DeWalt on the lower end. As far as advertised times, Flex beat the time by 1 minute and DeWalt beat it by 7 minutes. The rest of them, they're either close but not quite as advertised. And on to runtimes with no load. First up, the Adams Swirl Killer has an advertised runtime of 35 minutes. Most of these manufacturers you're going to find are going to test it unloaded, which is really not real world experience. It ran for 41 minutes before it died. Looking at the thermal camera here, you can see just running with no load. It has a hot spot on the battery, and it has a pretty warm temperature for the head. That's not, it's rather warm to the touch, but it's not going to burn you. Something to keep in mind. So I'm just going to show you kind of a live view of what I was looking at while I was reading these. And I recorded the highest temperature that I found. And of course I'll show you for each product, but this is the only time I'm going to show you the live video of it, just because it would take too long. I don't know if that's a defective cell. Something going on. It's just right above the battery, so maybe it's not the battery pack. So the DeWalt doesn't advertise a runtime. However, the beauty of the DeWalt ecosystem is if you don't like the runtime or the weight, you can go with a smaller battery or a larger battery. I think they offer up to 12 or 15 amp hour batteries, something like that. So it ran for 49 minutes before it died, and you can see up by the exhaust, it's a little warm. Overall, the tool ran pretty cool. Battery is slightly warm. So the Flex was advertised to run for 45 minutes, and the no load time ended up being 62 minutes. So exceeded it by a little bit. The head, warm to the touch, not overly hot, and the battery also stayed cool. It didn't have a good thermal image of that. Sorry about that. The Glossit has a claimed runtime of 45 minutes, and we ended up getting 57 or just over 57 minutes of runtime under no load. You can see it ran cool. Nothing excessively alarming on either the head temperature or the battery temperature. So well done there. Onto the Hardin 18 volt, advertised to run for 30 minutes, ended up running for 119 minutes, almost 2 hours with no load. So obviously they tested that under load, which is good to see. It is the lowest RPM of any polisher in this test. You can see it runs extremely cool. Very, very cool. No issues. There's the battery. Cobalt does not state an advertised runtime, but we ended up getting about 67 minutes of runtime under no load. Does run rather cool, as does the battery. The Makita, much like the DeWalt and others, if you want more runtime, get a bigger battery. This one, however, appears to be a power hog. It doesn't state a runtime. However, we did get 32 minutes out of it with no load. You can see that it's on the warmer side, but the battery doesn't get extremely hot or anything like that. The POPOMAN advertised to run 30 minutes. We ended up with a no load speed or no load time of 38 minutes. So it exceeds the expectations with no load. You can see it runs extremely cool, both battery and tool. The Ryobi, it is advertised to run 120 minutes with a 9 amp hour battery, which of course they don't supply with the kit, so not really an advertisement. Got 37 minutes out of it, and it is dangerously hot. It will burn you. That is extremely warm. The battery runs nice and cool. And just to show you live real time, I mean, look at this. This is incredible how hot this gets. This will burn you if you touch that. It does come with a D or a C handle. However, as I said earlier in the video, most detailers aren't going to use those because they're in the way. So if you're going to handle it like the tool's intended to, this tool is not going to be safe. It will burn you. And this isn't even with a load on it. ShineMate EB351 15mm. Advertised to run 45 minutes, and we got 68 minutes out of it, so just over an hour. Not too shabby. Runs rather cool too, compared to some of these others. And finally, the SPTA 15mm 20 volt. It is advertised to run for 60 minutes, and we only got 33 minutes, and that is no load runtime. Runs quite on the warm side, 108 degrees, 42 degrees, and the battery's a little bit warmer, but not too bad. So you can see Hardin was significantly longer than others, but that's also because it runs at about half the speed of the others. The Makita had the shortest no-load runtime, with the average somewhere around 35 to 40 minutes. And the temperatures, it looks like Ryobi got the hottest, with Cobalt, Hardin, ShineMate, Glossit running the coolest. Battery temperatures, the Atoms was significantly warmer than others, and under no load, nothing got excessively warm, which that's not unexpected. Now on to runtimes. Maximum speed with a 6-pound or 2.75 kilogram load on top of it, plus the tool weight. This is our hood we're going to be using. Came from a body shop. We're going to wash it. Going to clay bar, decontaminate, wipe it with isopropyl alcohol, and of course, then we're going to polish. I'm going to use a finishing polish, Rupes Fine Polish Uno Pure, with their high performance DA finishing pads. They don't have a product in this test, so should be a nice even playing field. First up, Atom Swirl Killer CP 15mm. Has very good cutting power. It doesn't stall very easily. However, it does get quite hot. They claimed 35-minute runtime. We got 22 minutes loaded, 41 without, and it took 170 minutes to charge. So you're going to be waiting a while. Got 112 degrees on the head, pretty warm, and the battery got up to 100 degrees, also pretty warm. The DeWalt 5-inch Max HR has pretty impressive power. It doesn't stall very easily. The battery does get warm, but the machine runs relatively cool, and the vents are in the middle, blowing the air forward and away from you, which is what you want. I said earlier, with the DeWalt ecosystem, if you want more runtime, all you have to do is buy a bigger battery. The included battery pack, we got 26 minutes of runtime and 49 without, and it took 83 minutes to charge. So you'd be waiting around a little bit. You can see that it's slightly warm battery pack, nothing uncomfortable though. The Flex XFE15, I'm going to slow this down for you here. It sounds like about halfway through, or maybe 10 minutes in, it loses about half its power. You hear the power going down very quickly, right about the 10 minute mark, all the way to a 38 minute runtime. They claim 45 minutes, we got 38, pretty close. Under no load we got 62 minutes, and it takes 49 minutes to charge. So you won't be waiting around. You can pretty much run this tool non-stop. Just for reference, so you can hear the difference. Runs rather cool, kind of middle of the pack like the rest of them, 102 degrees. Battery pack gets nearly 100 degrees, so quite warm. The Glossit was advertised for a 45-minute runtime, and we ended up getting about 30 minutes loaded. So a little short of the advertised runtime, but 30 minutes is on the higher end of what all these products are doing. You have a 45-minute claimed time, 57 no load, 30-minute runtime, and nearly 3 hours to charge. You can see that it ran cooler than most too for the tool and the battery. And the Hardin HD 4800, it is extremely slow. I think the max RPM was 2200, 2100. It stalls extremely easily, but it's just very lacking in power. However, I could see this as using something for a machine applied wax or a very fine polish. I would say for heavy compounding or cutting, this is definitely not the machine for you. But for, as I said, a machine applied wax or an extremely fine polish, this is probably a decent option. Where this machine shines is its runtime. They claim only 30 minutes, unloaded 2 hours, and loaded nearly an hour. It does take 3 hours to charge though. Runs very cool, 102 degrees and 87 degrees for the battery. There's a lot of machines in this test I would consider keeping. This is not one of them. I'm actually considered taking this one back to the store because it is so terrible. It's extremely lacking in power and it stalls very, very easily. It does run cool and it has a long run time, but that's about the only pluses. I definitely would not recommend this. 67-minute load time, 44-minute run time with a 170-minute charge time. Said it is one of the coolest running tools in the test. Under load only 92 degrees and the battery only got to 80 degrees. Not bad. So the Makita, having only a 5.5 millimeter orbit, it doesn't do a lot of work. It's a very well balanced tool, but it stalls extremely easily. If you flip it over into forced rotation mode, it is a beast. I would highly recommend it if you want it for forced rotation, but for orbital polishing, not so much. Maybe as a fine polisher, finish polisher, it may work okay. We'll see how it's going to work in the real world. It does claim, it actually doesn't have a runtime claim. No load, 32 minutes, loaded 25 minutes, and it takes 53 minutes to charge. And it does run nice and cool as far as the tool temperature and the battery temperature. And I did want to share with you just a quick video, show you how well balanced this is. I'm holding this here with one hand, and it's doing work beautifully. The POPOMAN. The downside to this tool is it has an extremely high-pitched noise that it really gets to your ear. And as long as you have hearing protection, it's okay, but it runs cool and it has great power. I was really impressed with this tool, especially for the price. And its claimed 30-minute runtime, it ran for 28 minutes. I would call that a win. It does have a long charge time though. Runs cool, 96 degrees, and 89 degrees for the battery. The Ryobi stalls very easily, gets extremely hot, moderate vibration felt in the handle. There were two products I was going to return to the store, the Cobalt being one, this would be the other. It is just rather disappointing, especially, it's not inexpensive either. As I said earlier, the head of this tool gets so hot that it can cause second-degree burns. It will burn you. Claimed 120 minutes with a 9 amp hour battery. We only got 23 minutes and it takes 121 minutes to charge. So short run time, long charge time, gets very hot, battery gets hot, let's stay away. On to the ShineMate 15mm, very good power, it runs cool. You do feel a decent amount of vibration in the handle, and we'll get to that here in a minute. It doesn't stall very easily, and it has a decent runtime, 25-minute runtime, but it is claimed 45 minutes. That's pretty far off. However, it does come with a quick charger and a dual battery charger with a charge time of 71 minutes. 101 degrees on the head, so pretty middle of the pack, and the battery 90 degrees, it's on the warmer side. SPTA, it has great power, it does get pretty hot. However, you remember me talking about where the exhaust is. It blows it out from behind the backing plate and underneath the tool onto the backing plate and the pad. So it does heat it up, and you definitely notice it. Where it falls short is the runtime. 21-minute runtime where they claim 60 minutes, so only about 30%, 33% of the advertised time. It also takes over 3 hours to charge. You can see the head temperature, 113 degrees, very warm, and the battery 93 degrees, which is also on the warm side. So overall, the run times, the Glossite, Flex, Cobalt, and Hardin were the longest, where SPTA, Adams, Ryobi, Makita were the shortest. Middle of the road was ShineMate, DeWalt, POPOMAN, and overall, still you're going to get about a half an hour. So the tool temperatures, Ryobi, extremely warm, SPTA, Adams, also warm. On the cooler side, Cobalt, POPOMAN, Glossite, Makita, and the battery temperatures, nothing to be concerned about, but we were paying attention to the Adams one. Adams, DeWalt, Flex on the warm side, Cobalt, Hardin, Makita on the cool side. And overall, the four longer running ones, Glossite, Flex, Cobalt, Hardin. On the shorter side, SPTA, Adams, Ryobi, and Makita. Middle of the road, ShineMate, DeWalt, POPOMAN. But I think overall, still expect to get about a half an hour of runtime out of these. Onto noise and sound levels. I'm going to save you the time here, but I'm going to show you a video here. This is how I tested the decibel levels. Tested them on the lowest speed and the highest speed of each one. Anything above 85 decibels at 24 inches is where you're going to have to require hearing protection. Anything louder than that, it's really gonna, you risk potentially damaging your hearing. So you can see here in the graph that there are some that are pretty close to or above 85 decibels, and that would be the Makita, SPTA, DeWalt, Adams, and POPOMAN. POPOMAN being the loudest, the quietest being the ShineMate, Flex, Hardin, and Glossite. Something to keep in mind if you're going to spend a lot of time around these tools is if they're going to be loud like this, you need to wear hearing protection. Even at the lowest speed, some of them aren't exactly quiet. Sound frequency, that's important too. That's how annoying it is. Anything above about 2,000 all the way up to 20,000 hertz is, humans are bothered by that noise. So you can see all of these fall within that range. POPOMAN has this very loud screaming noise, and it's not from gear noise, I don't think, but it's quite annoying, and it's evident when you see the tested hertz here. So the Cobalt was another one that was a little on the high side, but the three on the low side: Flex, DeWalt, and Glossit. Hand arm vibration. There's no standard in the US for this metric. However, the EU does have something, and in the European Parliament and of the Council on Minimum Health and Safety Requirements has a standard. They actually define whole body vibration, which is called WBV, and hand arm vibration, which is HAV, and that is specifically defined as vibration transmitted by handheld or guided tools such as reciprocating or rotating tools. This would apply here. The calculation, how it is figured, it's continuous acceleration normalized to an 8-hour day. So the A8 is the average of 8 hours, meaning the square root averaging of the acceleration signal has units of meters per second squared. T in this calculation is the daily duration of the exposure to the vibration of magnitude, and the T is the reference of time, of course. So how do we calculate that, and what are the exposure values? What are the limit values? The action value, where you would start to be concerned of the vibration, is 2.5 meters per second squared for hand arm vibration. That would be the equivalent of 0.5 meters per second whole body vibration. The limit value is 5 meters per second squared hand arm vibration, which is 1.15 meters per second whole body vibration. So the way that this is determined is there is a formula, and the European Council, they provide a spreadsheet that already has the formulas figured out. So all you have to do is measure the meters per second squared with a vibration meter. This is really a thing. You get a vibration meter, measure the vibration where the hand will be held, and then you put it in this formula, and it will give you a points per hour and a maximum amount of time until you get to the limit, to the exposure action value, and to the exposure limit values. We'll show you this here. I'm not going to go through each individual tool, but they were all tested. I'll show you a couple videos of how they were tested. Some of this will be pretty surprising. We're using a specific hand arm vibration meter and a vibration meter measuring device to determine these values. So the testing process went like this. We held the vibration meter up where your hand would typically be on the front of the tool and got a reading when it finally settled down. So in this instance, this was 5 meters per second. It was between 4.8 and 5, but it stayed around there. Tried to zoom in so you could see it there. I think it got up as high as 5.5, but when it settled, it was around 5. So then we take our hand arm vibration meter and we'll run it for 5 minutes to make sure that everything matches up with what the other meter read as well. And you can see after 5 minutes, it measured 5 meters per second, 4 points after 5 minutes. So you multiply that times 12, and that gives you your points per hour. Of note, the Adams machine, this was the worst vibration of any machine. It read 57.7 meters per second, which is an insane amount of vibration when this thing is on high. If you follow the rules for the limits here, you can only use this tool for a couple of minutes before it exceeds the value that the EU has set. Look at that, 57.7 meters per second. So my hand arm vibration meter only goes up to 25.5 meters per second, so it wouldn't be able to read vibration that high. So it was really no point in using that meter. But that is an incredible amount of vibration. I put such a heavy emphasis on vibration and the damage it can cause, mainly for those that use this in a professional environment. If you're just a weekend warrior, this probably isn't as of a concern, but you can see that it really can. It can affect your touch, your grip strength, your sensation between pain and cold. It's called white finger or Raynaud's disease. It's occupationally created. So it actually has. There's been lots of studies on this where you have different levels. Like mine that I have is probably between a moderate to severe in my right hand from this. And doing all these tests in a close time frame probably didn't help that, because my hand is still bothering me right now. But that's beside the point. This isn't about me. This is about you guys. So Raynaud's, it's a hand-arm vibration syndrome that is of occupational origin. I cannot stress enough the importance of a low vibration machine when you're going to be exposed to it all day long. So here is all the raw data in meters per second squared. The higher is worse, the lower is better. So you can see the top 4, probably Cobalt, Ryobi, Flex, and Makita. And DeWalt's not too far behind. So basically those 5 are pretty low vibration. Medium to upper, Hardin, Glossit, POPOMAN, ShineMate are getting up there, and then SPTA is pretty high, and Adams is absolutely terrible as far as vibration goes. So when you put that into the spreadsheet as to an exposure limit, this is in minutes. So the red is the maximum number of minutes you could use these tools. So it's basically reverse of that last spreadsheet you saw where Cobalt, Ryobi, Flex, Makita, DeWalt, you can use those for 480, 500, 800 minutes a day without exceeding that exposure limit. Where the Adams, SPTA, ShineMate, POPOMAN, Glossit, Hardin, you're looking at about 2 to 3 hours max. Anywhere between for the Adams, SPTA, ShineMate, POPOMAN, Glossit, and Hardin, those first 6 that you see on the left, anywhere between 4 minutes and 96 minutes. Between barely using it and up to 3 hours a day is the max you can use those without it exceeding this level of what the EU would determine is excessive. And finally, as with all my tests, in the video description you will find a Google Docs to this spreadsheet that you see right here that has Amazon Associates links to where you can buy it, and it has all the info about all the tools, everything that was measured that we tested, and all the tool battery info, weights, sizes, speeds, absolutely everything. Batteries, the price that it costs to replace the batteries, their warranty, where they're made, the type of battery, the amp hours, the watt hours, just everything you think you would want to know about any of these tools, it is in the spreadsheet, I guarantee it. The run times, the temperatures, the claimed times, the measured times, vibration, sound, frequency, just absolutely everything. A lot of time has gone into this test. So I really would appreciate it if you guys do decide to purchase a polisher. Please use the link either in the video description or in the Google Docs file. It will help me greatly try to pay some of this back before my wife freaks out. As you can see, it cost in excess of $6,000 for this. There is one tool in here that I did not buy, which is the Glossit. That will be returned to them. It was loaned to me just to use because they don't have any for sale just at the moment. It's coming soon. So because this video is getting kind of long, we're going to break it up into a second part with all of the interviews where you have the 6 professionals that talk about everything and why you would or wouldn't want these products. The 3-inch polishers, that will be in a separate video, which will probably be in 2 parts as well. If I can keep it short enough, I'll just have it in one video. All right, so now you have seen all of the metrics and everything that's been measured, and you can sort of get a pretty good idea of what is a pretty good polisher and what's not. Just because something's in the middle of the road doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It just depends on what you need for your specific use. If you're going to be a weekend warrior, some of these may not be ideal for you. If you have money burning a hole in your pocket, absolutely. If you're on a budget, there are some better options. And we'll get into that. We're going to interview 6 different people, well, 5 and myself. I'm going to interview myself. And we're going to go over, after everybody has been using these for over a week, if not longer for some of these guys, that we're going to get their opinions on what they think is best and what's not. However, I'm going to go over just very quickly each of these in alphabetical order as to the weights and the runtime, just kind of summarize each individual one now that you've seen all the metrics. So first up is the Adams. This tool, it's one of the hottest batteries in the test, and it runs very hot as well. It's one of the loudest. You have to wear hearing protection, and also the vibration is absolutely the worst in the test. If you just go on the European metrics, then you can use this for about 4 minutes before it exceeds the hand-arm vibration. So if you are very concerned about vibration, this is not the tool for you. The DeWalt, this one is one of the heavier ones in the test. However, it has a fully adjustable trigger and a variable trigger on top of that. It is one of the louder tools, so you have to wear hearing protection when you use it. It's one of the smoother running. If you were to take into consideration the vibration, you can use this for 8 hours straight and still not exceed the hand-arm vibration limit that is set. So I put a lot of emphasis on vibration because this is something that I'm going to use in the shop for many hours a day. The other thing to factor in with run times, these are worst case scenario run times. So if you have one that ran, for example, this one ran for 26 minutes loaded with 6 pounds, what is that, 2 point something kilograms of weight on it at max speed. So if you're going to use it at a lesser speed, the vibration will be less, the noise will be less, and the run time will be longer. One thing that doesn't change is the charge time. This one, I believe, this one was about an hour and a half charge time, which if you have a 25 or 30 minute runtime, that would mean you need several batteries if you're going to constantly use it at max speed. The Flex 150, it has probably one of the best feels. It really feels like a quality piece. It's on the heavier side. It's not the heaviest, but it's one of the heavier ones. It has a fantastic trigger. It's the quietest. It has the lowest noise frequency. So you don't have to wear hearing protection when running this at max speed. The big caveat of this is after about 10 minutes, it just falls flat on its face. It runs out of power, and then it'll run that way for about the next 30 minutes. So out of the usable runtime, you only have maybe 25% of that I would use in a daily grind. So for that reason, that's why this isn't my favorite. The Glossit Ion 15. So this was sent to me by Glossit. They're about to put it in production. So this is a final production model. It's not a prototype or pre-production or anything like that. It is used and it's loaned to me. So I'm sending it back as soon as we're done with this test. The benefits, it can use the SPTA or the Makita batteries. So, there's Glossit. There's the Makita battery. Put it right in, fires right up. It is one of the lightest in the test, and you can definitely feel that. When you pick up a DeWalt or Makita or a Flex, those feel significantly heavier than this. It does have plenty of room for your hands, for people like me that have big hands. It is on the probably middle of the pack for vibration. So when you factor in the max time, you can use it for 1 hour and 11 minutes in any given 8-hour period. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but you're not going to use this for an hour and 11 minutes straight. You're going to use it for 5 or 10 minutes, put it down, put it back up. So that time extends, but it's still probably shorter than 8 hours. This does run cool. It is one of the longer run times at 30 minutes, but it's also one of the longer charge times at nearly 3 hours. So you would have to have a few batteries and keep that in mind. I talked about the Makita batteries. Those have a quick charger. So if you wanted something that was quick but still wanted this tool, you could get the Makita with the quick charger. Of course, that adds some expense, and you would have it. This is about $350 with 2 batteries. So it's kind of right in the middle of the pack for the average price of these. I think I said earlier the average price is $347, $350. The Hardin. This is, to be honest, I actually bought this particular model of Hardin by accident. They make a higher speed model, and that's not what I ended up buying. They sell a lower speed model, which is what this is. The max speed on this, 2100 RPM, where some of these other ones get to 7,000, 8,000 RPM. And you definitely notice it. And because of that, it feels like it's lacking in power. It does have the coolest running time, or it has the coolest running temperature, both battery and tool temperature. It has the longest running time unloaded and loaded. With no load, this runs for almost 2 hours, and loaded, it runs almost an hour. That's not to say that this isn't bad because it's lacking in power or speed. It would be something that you may want to use for spreading wax or a sealant on a car. You could do that much quicker than by hand with a machine like this. It's very cheap. Without the second battery, this was $155. With it, it's $210, $208, something like that. That is, it's not a terrible tool, but it has its certain uses. If you're going to use it for heavy duty cutting, that's probably not your tool. The Cobalt, it was the only tool in the whole test that you can't buy as a kit. This one you had to buy the tool and you had to buy the batteries. So I tried to buy a comparable battery to everything else that has a 4 and 5 amp hour battery. So that's what this is. This is a 4 amp hour. That's the way we tested it. That's the way it was all measured. It feels kind of cheap in your hands. It doesn't feel very well thought out. And you find that in these like DeWalt, Makita, Ryobi, Cobalt, those lines where they have 200 different tools that one battery powers. That's the whole ecosystem. They get you in to their ecosystem so then you continue to buy their tools. This feels like it was just something that was thrown together, and it's pretty apparent. It does have the longest warranty at 5 years. It's lightweight, but it does have a heavy battery. It is the coolest running, but it does take 3 hours to charge. So you would need either multiple chargers or multiple batteries if you were going to use this in a professional environment. The vibration, it's one of the lowest in the test. In order to exceed that European limit, you would have to use this for 17 and a half hours in any given 8-hour period, which of course doesn't make sense, which means that you can use it and not worry about vibration. It's not going to bother your hands pretty much at all. One other downside to this is it has sort of a small orbit, so it's not doing a whole lot of work. They don't advertise what it is, and I didn't take it apart to measure the actual amount of orbit, but it feels like it doesn't do a lot of work. So the Makita, it is a very versatile tool because it can do forced rotation and random orbital. If you like forced rotation, boom, right there. Random orbital, right back. The benefit to that is you could use this for cutting, heavy duty compounding and cutting as a forced rotation machine, and then switch over to random orbital to do a finishing polish. That's where this would make the most sense. You can use it as an all-in-one type of tool. The downside is it's sort of on the lower end for runtimes, but it has a quick charger. So if you don't like the runtime, you can either get a bigger battery or additional batteries. It's on the heavier side because it has the gears that have to switch and everything. It's a long tool, but it feels well thought out. It feels good in your hands. It has a lot to hold on to. It's also, everything on the bottom here is protected. It has this rubberized finish. So that does make it a little more user-friendly. For example, so if you, like on this Land Cruiser here, if you were polishing and you accidentally bumped it against the paint, because it is somewhat close, it's not gonna do anything. It may mar it or something, but you're not gonna scratch the paint. This is one of the smoother tools of the test, but you just have to factor in the run times. That's one of the big things with this one. And it is the most expensive. It's almost $600. So the POPOMAN, this is one of the least expensive tools in the test. $170 with 2 batteries. So it was $150 plus an extra battery. The benefit is these are $35 a piece for a replacement battery. You could get you a couple of them and you could just go to town. It's one of the lightest, and it's very light. It's also one of the loudest. It has this annoying high-pitched noise. It's not really gear noise, I don't think, but it sounds electronic. It's a high-pitched noise that really just kind of irritates your ears. So if you put on good hearing protection, it shouldn't be an issue, but that's something to note because you'll find in this next video where I interviewed everybody, that's a complaint that a lot of people had. And because generally in the shop, I know we should be wearing hearing protection, but a lot of us don't. They advertise 30-minute runtime, and it has 28-minute loaded runtime, so it pretty much holds up to what they say it does. The unknowns with this is nobody's ever heard of it. We don't know long-term how it's going to hold up. Where you have like Flex, Makita, DeWalt, ShineMates, those have a pretty well-established brand history, so you know that the products they put out, they're going to last a while. Whether they're good or bad, they're going to last. It does run cool. It has a 2.5-hour charge time. So as I said earlier, you'd have to have multiple batteries, multiple chargers if you were going to run this all the time. But at $35 for battery, maybe that's not a bad thing. The Ryobi, this is actually the lightest tool in the test. If you can't get the battery off, it's the lightest tool in test. I mean, you can toss it around. It's barely over 4 pounds. I mean, I can hold it with 2 fingers and still do that. The downside is it has a very heavy battery. This battery with the tool adds a significant weight. It's kind of awkward. If this battery were turned to the side, it would be much better. The big drawback to this tool is it runs extremely hot. You see this exposed metal here, and I know it comes with a D or a C ring that you can hold on to, but let's be real here. Most polishers like this, you're not going to use that. That's a D ring or a C ring. Those are for rotary polishers, not for random orbital. You have a handle on the front that it gives you. You use that handle. You don't use it up here. It just gets awkward. So for that reason, I'm not even going to go as far as recommending anything that comes close to this, because that metal exposed right there gets 155 degrees Fahrenheit. It will burn you. It'll cause second-degree burns. So just for that reason, I'm out. It does have extremely low vibration though, so you could use it a long time. It has about a 2-hour charge time, and it has the shortest runtime, or one of the shortest run times. So it's one of those, again, where you'd have to have multiple batteries and multiple chargers in order to keep this running all the time. So the ShineMate 15 millimeter, it's slightly heavier than average. So if you call the average about 2,500 grams, you know, this is a little bit heavier than that. Pretty average runtime. So with any of these, you're going to get about half an hour. That's kind of the average. It runs cool. It's about 1 hour charge, but the benefit, let me hold this up here. There is a dual battery charger that it comes with, and it is a quick charger. It has a fan that runs. It only charges one at a time though. So like Makita and DeWalt have a dual battery charger. It can charge both at the same time. This only charges one at a time, but it does do it quickly. And when it's done with the first one, it switches to the second one. This is the quietest of the test, but it is higher vibration. So if you go back to that EU standards, 42 minutes max time that you could use this on max speed, and you would exceed the vibration limit. So the SPTA, it is a couple benefits. You can run the Makita battery with it too. So if you were concerned about run times and charge times, you can run a bigger Makita battery, or you can use the Makita ecosystem and have a faster charging. It doesn't work the other way around. You can't use these batteries on Makita tools, but Makita tools batteries do work on this. It is one of the lightest in the test. It's just over 5 pounds with the battery. I mean, you can see you can move it around pretty easily. The downside, it has the shortest runtime, just over 20 minutes, and has the longest charge time at just over 3 hours. So you would, again, go back to what I said about the Makita. If you were going to use this at, you know, it's $189, you're going to spend more than that on Makita batteries and chargers if you were going to do that. If you already had the Makita ecosystem, that may work. Just like the Glossit Ion that also uses the Makita batteries. You know, that's a simple way around that, but it's going to cost you. This tool also has pretty extreme vibration. It's one of the worst in the test. It's not the worst, it's one of the worst. To exceed that vibration limit, you're at about the 20 minutes, and you would exceed the vibration level that you should have in any given 8-hour period. So that is something to factor in. It is one of the cheaper tools, $189. It comes, as you saw in the beginning of the video, it comes with a box full of stuff. It's, you know, plenty of stuff to get you started if you were like a weekend warrior. But again, you have to factor in the run times and the charge times. Even if you were a weekend warrior, this probably, you're still going to struggle to get constant use if this is your only tool that you're purchasing. So in summary, if you're on a budget and you're going to buy something, one of these that can just get the job done, there are a few options. The POPOMAN is one, but as I said, it has some vibration, and it has that ear-piercing noise. The other one, there's actually two. So the Glossit at $350, that's a pretty good deal considering it runs cool, it runs pretty long, and the batteries are reasonable to replace. I think $50 or something like that. Or if you already have the Makita ecosystem in your shop, that would work too. Another one would probably be the ShineMate. It's a little on the higher end. It's around the $390 mark. This is the one that it's only available in Canada. So that one, if you're in the US or elsewhere in the world, I don't know about availability. I had to buy these from Carzilla and then pay the exchange rate. So that's kind of iffy. If price is no object, you're definitely sitting well with the DeWalt, the Makita, and the Flex. Those are the three most expensive in the test. They do perform well, but as a professional in our environment, I would go for the DeWalt. The reason being is it has the power, it has the runtime, it feels right in your hands. I have big hands, it fits in my hands very well. The Flex, I don't like the fact that after about 10 minutes it falls flat on its face. The Makita, it's kind of an all-in-one, it can do everything, and you know, it does it very well. It's lacking in orbit size, so it can't do, as a random orbital, it can't do a lot of work very quickly. That's where you'd switch it over to the forced rotation, do that for the cutting, switch it back, do that for the random orbital. So you have lots of great options here. It's just what fits your budget, what fits your needs. Are you a professional? Are you not a professional? The ones I would avoid are like the Cobalt, the Ryobi, the Atoms, the SPTA. That's just, they have a lot of, some of them have a lot of vibration. The one that has a very specific use, in my opinion, is the Hardin. It doesn't have a lot of speed, but I think you could use it for applying a sealant or a sealer or some kind of wax. That's where really that fits in. I wouldn't use that for heavy correcting or anything like that. That pretty much sums up our large polishers. The very next video here, I still have 2 more guys to interview. I'm doing that here in 2 days. Once that's done, then we will have all of the opinions up on a video. That's going to be kind of a long video too. Each video interview is about 10 minutes. So combined together, it's going to be 45, 50 minutes long of interviews, but it is worth listening to. I promise you that. Then separately, I'm also going to do a video with all of the small polishers that we tested, which you see like the Flex, the Mirka, the Shine Mates. I wanted to do those separately because they serve a different purpose. You're not going to use those running in your shop for 8 hours a day, but you're going to use them for trim work and, you know, mirrors, A-pillars, underneath mirrors, things like that. So that's why I wanted to separate that, and I'm going to interview everybody separately for that as well. So I just wanted to thank you guys all for watching. As you can see, that there was a ton of time. There were hundreds of hours that we put into this test between load testing, run testing, doing all the research for everything, the vibration. I had to buy these meters from England in order to test all of this because the US has no standard for it, therefore nobody has meters here for it. The only thing I could come close to finding, there's a company called Fluke. They make a bearing vibration meter, but that's not what we're after here because these far exceed any kind of bearing vibration that those meters tested. So I had to get specialty meters, not inexpensive. So there is a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort that went into this test. So because of that, if you do consider buying any of these products, please use them, please purchase them through the Amazon Associates links, as it does help me out. I got to pay for these somehow. You know, it would just greatly help out, guys. Thank you again. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment down below. I try to watch all of the comments. I try to respond as many as possible. If you have any other questions, my contact info is right here. Thanks again, guys. Stay tuned for the second part coming up here in a couple days.